the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Riv. And before we get too far into anything, I want to pull up the replay of that final fight in the game and really pinpoint two players on NRG, GBM and Conquan, around this Baron, both making big plays. I mean, GBM across the board in the game, really. GBM putting up huge damage numbers, but then Conquan, some big Bard ults coming from him.
Yeah, it's just the focus here that each one have. You can see that GBM, he's immediately going to go after Purion, and then Conquan, once again, he did this previously, he's going to Bard ulti onto the jungler and make sure that there's no possibility of a smite steal. And that's what I really love here, is just the singling out there instantly. That was last time you saw him, he was about, a little bit over half HP, and right there, that Bard ulti. That would just be so frustrating as a jungler to play against.
Not even having the option or the opportunity to steal.
Yeah, and Nidalee is a hard jungler to pin down. Yeah. With the Tempered Fate, the travel time is pretty significant.
Yeah, he still had flash there too. So Proxen could have flashed the ultimate, but he didn't do it. And also in the previous fight that there were around Baron, it was the exact same scenario.
Yeah. It's definitely tough, though. It's like, where do you flash to in that scenario, Yeah, do you flash in the pit early and die?
Little to the left.
Or do you can flash a little bit to the side, but...
He just used his leap, so he couldn't get into the pit at all then.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's one of those scenarios where you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yes, he could have flashed out, but you're seeding the Baron anyway, and at that point in the game, it pretty much is lights out. And speaking about GBM, he gets the insta-kill there onto the Lissandra, and I mean, he put up 32,000 damage this game. The next highest on his team was 17,000. This guy has been, carrying the torch for his team. He's been looking absolutely fantastic. I think not only that pick, but throughout the game, he was constantly getting his poke down, like catching people out with Frost Queen's Claim.
Yeah, and this is against a Lissandra, who usually you're like, okay, so LeBlanc's going to have to be a little bit more conservative against Lissandra because she'll lock her in place immediately. But GBM, every time the camera panned over him, he was bursting somebody out, and then they would, gain territory on the map.
They kind of gave him a split push roll, too, at some point, where he's just going head-to-head against the Graves and blowing him up. So.
Right,
dying one time.
He did die one time. But not just Lissandra. He had to deal with a Black Shield as well as double Maz on both of the ADCs. So the fact that he had to keep all of this in mind and play around the internal cooldowns of those items as well as the cooldown of the Black Shield, stay out of range of an ultimate from Lissandra, that is so much for him to keep in mind and still be able to pump out that kind of damage and make those plays there late game that secure the win. Yeah. Really fantastic individual performance by him. You look at the rest, too. I mean, Moon had a couple good secures, to say the least, as well, on those big objectives. So, nice play out of him as well. If we swap over to the other side, though, Team Impulse, I feel like this is a game where they do need to get credit for the plays that they were making. This was a much closer game than probably most would have expected, looking at NRG as one of the top teams in the league so far, and Tip having just gotten Fang back into the lineup, you can still have so many questions about how well are they going to operate together.
Yeah. I was honestly impressed with some of the coordination that they were able to pull off mid-game. They actually had some fairly impressive plays, especially since you're talking about them just finally getting their full roster back together.
Yeah, 20 minutes into the game, in the mid lane, we saw a beautifully executed team fight by them. We have this replay. We'll pull it up for you. Azale, if you don't mind walking us through this one.
Oh, yeah, you can see at the start of this fight as we roll the clip, Graves is actually going to come down from the bottom. He's able to clear the minion wave out with his ult. He's coming down from top lane here, actually. I'm not sure if this was...
he's on the bottom side there by blue buff.
Yeah, so here he is coming down from the bottom. And right as the Graves ult W comes in, we see Lissandra go for it, locks them all in place. The turret is now on Moon. And the coordination and timing here was absolutely fantastic from Tip. They all went in together. The binding coming in from Gate as well, especially Fang and Purion there. Really, really fantastic engage. And this was one of the points of the game where it was like, wow, these guys are actually really doing well on the same page.
Oh, and then right there, GBM barely misses the chain, but they're able to pick up the kill still with the Malphite Q. But yeah, that engage, especially Purion and Fang, the coordination, like just at the right time to get them under turret with no minions.
Yeah, clearing those minions out, but it was also a collapse from a 1-3-1 scenario. So you're communicating with both Mash and also Fang on the side and making sure that everybody's there at the right time.
Yeah, and not too many people would really expect like a Graves flank like that. You know what I mean? Traditionally, you would more expect the Graves to kind of walk the safe way through the jungle, rejoin his team at the turret, and then perhaps the Lissandra looks to initiate something. But he actually knew he could come around from the side and make something happen for his team. So Fang actually had some pretty nice individual performances as well as the team coordination stuff.
Well, and it's wonderful to see him come in and have a little bit of success there on the champion, even though it was a loss, given the fact that prior to this, he was 0-7-4 across his 2 games in that first week of play. So it just speaks to...
Unlucky.
Yeah, exactly. Unlucky. It just kind of speaks to where they should maybe, feel they operate as a team. And I think the most important thing, and and Gate's been very open about this, that he wants people to have more faith in this team. I think they're making a statement, even in their losses, that this isn't a 10th place team, right? They're sitting at 3 and 4. They're making the case to slide into that 5th or 6th slot and make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Feng even had the solo kill on GBM. It was a bit of a messy one, but, you know, not too bad, right?
Yeah, and it's a back and forth game, right? Like, even today, I think they had better performances than some of the top teams.
Certainly.
I mean, yeah, you look at the likes of TSM, who still looks sloppy, and initially when you're looking at that roster, you're saying this is the team that should perform. TIP is the, you know, the group of nobodies, the groups of, that we don't know anything about, and here they are showing up pretty big in their first couple weeks of play. Now it's time to update the standings, though, and see how the teams are situated after our 5 games today. In first place, it's Immortals, with NRG 2 games back in second place. Then we have the Old Guard of North America, all tied up at 3rd place. And at the bottom of the standings are Dignitas, Echo Fox, and Renegades rounding out the league. Now, we're fresh out of games today, but we'll be back tomorrow with a new crop, starting with Immortals versus Team Liquid. That's going to be an exciting one. Both of them on fairly solid undefeated runs recently. Then Cloud9 will square off against the NRG eSports, and we'll close out week 4 with Team Dignitas battling Echo Fox. But be sure to stick around, because in just a few minutes, the ULOL Campus Series heads to Massachusetts with the explosive rivalry between Harvard and Boston University. Now, for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.